Everyone is always trying to figure out which prop firm is the best, which one is the cheapest, which one has the best rules, and which one has the best payout policy, which is exactly why in this video I'm going to be doing a thorough breakdown and comparison of the top 4 prop firms that do not have any activation fee right now. I will also be breaking down which firm and which account is best depending on what level trader you are at. Whether you are brand new or whether you are a seasoned prop firm trader, I'll be explaining exactly why which firms are best for you and which ones you should avoid until later. So without wasting any time, let's get right into this. First off, if you take anything from this video, it needs to be this. When I personally was starting out with prop firms and buying accounts, passing challenges, all that good stuff, money was tight for me, okay, which is why I would spend hours and hours of research comparing every single prop firm, every single account with each other so that I knew that I was getting the best possible deal because I needed to give myself every chance to buy the most amount of accounts with the least amount of money. So especially if you are newer in the prop firm space, you need to know to never pay full price for a challenge account. There are many different reputable prop firms to choose from nowadays, but what's more important is that every single one is almost always running a discount. The dumbest possible thing that you could do as a prop firm trader, besides full porting on FOMC, is paying full price for an account. Another extremely dumb thing that you can do as a prop firm trader is to support people who sell you junk, such as courses and mentorships. Me being in the position that I am in currently, I do not need to sell you anything, whether it's a course, mentorship, or a PDF in order to live in my house and have my lifestyle. Instead of selling you something, I give you all the videos and the information that I wish personally that I had when I was first starting out, so that whoever watching this is hopefully able to get into my position much sooner than I was able to myself. So now combining both of those things together, where you save the most money possible on every single prop firm account that you ever buy, as well as supporting the person who's giving you the information and the blueprint that they wish that they had personally, all for free, I would appreciate it if you watch the entire video and the entire breakdown and analysis on each of the prop firms. And even more so if you decide to buy an account from any of the firms listed in this video, just use my code PK at the checkout to get the maximum possible discount, as well as support the daily giveaways that I do on Discord and Twitter. At the moment, I'm giving away a free 50K Take Profit Trader account every single day on my Twitter and Discord. It's completely free to join, and it's not like a cheap, $10, $15 eval. It's a $100 eval that I'm giving away to someone every single day. So that alone is $2,000 every single month. My goal is to be giving away 5 to 10 evals every single day. So that's, $1,000 a day in evals just that I'm giving away. And like I've said to my Discord and everyone else that follows me before, the giveaways are 100% supported by people who use code PK. I've kept my promises. I said that I was going to be doing more and more giveaways as more people use the code. Currently, all alpha accounts are 10% off, 5% off on all MFF accounts, 40% off and no activation fee for TPT, and 30% off of everything for Tradeify. Like I said, all you need to do is type in 2 letters. That's the least number of letters that you need to type in. Just remember PK for Peter Kennedy, and that will take care of you and get you the best possible discount on all the firms listed below. With that being said, I hope you found this video useful, and let's get right into this. So there are 2 main phases of prop firm accounts that need to be evaluated when you're deciding which firm to go with: the evaluation phase and the funded phase. Each of them have their own rules and metrics that you need to keep track of, which we'll be going over in the next slide. Also, in order to fairly compare all these firms side by side, I created the P.E.T.E.R scale. What exactly does the P.E.T.E.R scale stand for, you might ask? It stands for pricing, efficiency, as in the time from buying the account until when you can get a payout, trustworthiness, as in like the reputation of the firm itself. Earnings potential is in regards to how much the account costs compared to how much money can you take out of it in payouts total. And then rules is pretty self-explanatory. Rules for the eval, rules for the payouts. So for each aspect, it'll be graded from a 1 to 10 scale, 1 being the worst, 10 being the highest. Now moving on to the firms themselves. Here we go. All right, so first off is going to be the comparison of all the different firms on the eval stage. So for the sake of this example, I'm going to be comparing the $50,000, so the entry level, the cheapest possible account that you can buy for each of these firms. So at the top, you got Alpha, MFF, TPT, Tradeify. So for Alpha, the account is called the zero account, where there's no activation fee. For MFF, it is the core account, then test account, then growth account, respectively. Next up, for the pricing for each of these is as follows. So on the left, you will see the normal price of each of these accounts. However, once you apply code PK at the checkout, you get the price that is on the right. So that is the discounted price. 89 for Alpha, 73 for MFF, 102, and 97. So obviously right off the rip, MFF is the most attractive option here so far. We'll keep that in mind. Obviously, because this video is what it is, none of these accounts have an activation fee. TPT usually has an activation fee of $130. However, it is $0 now, which is part of the current promotion that they're running. Next up, for the profit target. So this is the amount that you have to make in order to pass the eval stage. Pretty standard for all of them, just $3,000 across the board, nothing different there. Max drawdown, same deal, $2,000. So 2K drawdown, 3K profit target. So far, extremely standard and nothing out of the ordinary. Daily loss limit. So a lot of people get it confused. If you hit the daily loss limit, that does not mean that you lose the account. It just means that the account will lock you out until the next trading day. So for example, say that I'm trading the New York AM session and I lose $1,000 on an Alpha Zero account. I will get locked out and I cannot trade until the next session, which is counted as the next trading day. So at 6 p.m. Eastern, I can now trade again. However, for the rest of the current trading day, I cannot touch anything or open any new positions. But as you can see, 1K daily loss limit for Alpha, nothing for MFF and TBT, and 1250 for Tradeify. News trading, so this means can you hold positions through the news? Yes, across the board, pretty standard for the eval phase. Minimum days to pass, so here we have some discrepancies. So for Alpha and Tradeify, you can pass these accounts in 1 day. Doesn't mean you have to pass it in 1 day or less, but that is the minimum number of days you need to pass the account. For My Funded Futures, it is 2 days minimum. And then TPT, it is 5 days minimum. Like I said, this is not a time limit. This is just a minimum that you need to hit in order to pass. So for Alpha and Tradeify, there is no consistency rule, obviously, because you can make the entire profit target in a single day, in a single trade. However, for MFF and TPT, it is 50%, which means that for both firms, for both accounts, the max that you can make in a single day is $1,500 for the 50K evaluation. And last but not least, the drawdown type is end of day for all of them. So like I said, pretty standard so far. Now moving on to the funded phase of the same 50K accounts from each of these firms. So the consistency rule on the funded phase is a little different than on the eval phase. What the consistency rule means in this context is what percentage of the total profit can you have made in a single day? So for example, say you made 10K total on an Alpha Zero account on the funded phase. The absolute most that you could have made without getting your payout denied is 40% of that 10K, which means that if you made $4,000 or more on any single day, your payout will get denied. Same thing for Tradeify, except it is 35%. For MFF and TPT, there are no consistency rules, so that is very nice. Minimum trading days to get a payout. This is also where we see a pretty big discrepancy. 5 and 5 for Alpha and MFF, 7 for Tradeify. However, you only need 1 trading day on a TPT account to get a payout. The biggest complaint that I hear from people about Take Profit Trader is that you need a minimum of 5 days to pass the eval. I can understand that it's a little different from most prop firms. However, once you look at it like this, I think you'll change your mind like I did as well. So if you recall here, back to the evaluation chart, Alpha takes 1 day to pass, 2 days for MFF, 1 day to pass Tradeify, which sound great. And that sounds much better than 5 days to pass the eval for TPT. However, if you look at it from a perspective of the total number of trading days that you need to get a payout, TPT is by far and away the best. So keep in mind 5 trading days on the eval for TPT. And then once you get to the funded phase, you need only 1 trading day to get a payout. So that is 6 days total. Whereas MFF is a minimum of 7, Tradeify is a minimum of 8 trading days, and Alpha is the same 6 days. But don't be scared just because this says 5 days. In the big picture, TPT is actually faster in order to get a payout from the day that you buy the account until the day that you request and get the payout. So keep that in mind. Moving on to the maximum payout for each of these firms. So it is $1,500, $1,000, none, and $1,500 for Tradeify. So this means that after 5 trading days on the funded phase, the max amount that you can take out of a Alpha Zero account is $1,500, $1,000 for the My Funded Futures core account. And then the first payout that you can get with a Tradeify growth account is $1,500. However, with each payout, the max payout amount will go up $250 per payout. So yes, your first payout will be capped out at $1,500. However, the next one you can take out $1,750, $2K, $2,250, and so on and so forth. Next up is your max drawdown for your accounts on the funded phase, and this one is pretty standard for $2,000 across the board. Daily loss limit here on the funded phase, there is none for MFF and TPT. However, once again, there is a $1,000 and $1,250 daily loss limit for Alpha and Tradeify respectively. News trading, so all except one will be no with an asterisk. So Tradeify, you can trade whatever news you want. They do not care. However, for the other 3, they all have slightly different things that they consider Tier 1 news, which you are not allowed to trade. If you are someone like myself who only trades the New York AM session, you don't have any news to worry about because all of that news is either at 2 p.m. for FOMC or all in the pre-market at usually 8:30 a.m. Eastern for like CPI, PPI, NFP. But if you are someone who trades pre-market or you want to trade FOMC or around it, then check out the videos that I posted on each of those firms, and I'll go more into detail on those. But like I said, I don't even pay attention to that just because I know that the news events that are restricted for any of these firms that I trade on, I am not trading anywhere near those times to begin with, so I don't even pay attention. Moving on to the drawdown type. So we got end of day for all of them except for TPT, which is trailing with an asterisk. So that little star is there because it is trailing drawdown until you hit $2,000 in buffer on the funded account. Once you hit $2,000 in profit on the 50K funded account for TPT, your buffer changes from trailing to static drawdown. Means you just have to keep the account balance above $50,000 and then you are good. There's no end of day or trailing drawdown or anything to worry about besides just keeping your account balance above 50,000. But like I said, for the other three, it's the same end of day drawdown. Last but not least, the maximum number of accounts that you can have for each firm, it is 5 for all of them except Alpha Futures, which are limited at 3. In my opinion, that's the worst part about Alpha. Everything else about them is really great, and I think that they have great rules. However, I don't like that they limit their number of funded accounts that you can have at a time to 3. It's just kind of a weird number, but it is what it is. So that wraps up like the side-by-side comparison and kind of a brief overview of all the rules for each of these firms. Now, as promised, we're going to be going through every single firm and every single account and running it through the P.E.T.E.R score. So once again, pricing, efficiency, trustworthiness, earnings potential, and rules. First off, starting with Alpha Futures, just because of alphabetical order. Pricing wise for the Alpha Zero accounts, in my opinion, is very fair. Like I said, for this video, it's all accounts that have no activation fee, right? So basically less than 90 bucks, you can get an account that you can take $1,500 out of potentially every single week after only 5 trading days and only 1 day required for the eval phase. I'm going to be giving their pricing a 9. Efficiency is going to be about how quickly can you get from buying the account until getting a payout. So once again, to recap, you can pass the eval in 1 single day and then you can get a payout after 5 trading days on the funded phase. Any reputable firm that can get you from buying the account today and then in 6 days getting a payout, that is phenomenal, and I'm a big fan of that. So efficiency is going to get a 9 for Alpha. Is the firm reliable, trustworthy? Do they deny payouts randomly or without explanation, or do they have support that is non-existent? In the case of Alpha, their parent company is Alpha Capital Group, which has been around for a long time and is one of the very large players in the forex prop space. They have a very solid and reputable name for themselves just based off of that. And since they switched over to the futures prop firm space, in my opinion and in my experience, I've never had anything bad happen with Alpha, knock on wood. Their support is fantastic. They are trustworthy in my book, so trustworthiness gets a 10. Earnings potential, like I said, 90 bucks, well, less than 90 bucks to get potentially $1,500. And if you're copy trading 3 accounts, possibly $4,500 every single week from them. That's a phenomenal deal in my opinion. However, I just wish that their payout caps were like a little bit higher, or they would kind of scale up as you go. Overall, still very good. I'm going to be giving them an 8 on earnings potential. In my opinion, their rules are some of the best. End of day drawdown for everything. They're very clear on what you can and cannot do. And like I said, I've never had a bad experience personally, and I've never heard anyone else say anything that was the firm's fault or some hidden rule that they broke and they lost all their accounts from. I've never heard anything from that with Alpha. The only thing that I don't like about these zero accounts is the daily loss limit for both the eval and the funded portion. Overall, very solid, but I'm going to be giving them a 9, which the total brings us to 45 out of 50 for Alpha, which breaks down to a P.E.T.E.R score of 9 out of 10. Next up is going to be the MFF core account. Once again, starting off with the pricing, which objectively for this one, you cannot beat the price. Like $73 with the discount, it's insane. And especially more so when they run a 15 or 25% discount, you can get a core account for like 50 to 60 bucks, which is insane. The pricing, you cannot beat it, especially on this list. You can't even come close to it. So pricing gets a 10. For the efficiency compared to the other firms on this list and the other options that we have and that we're comparing it against, 2 days to pass the eval plus 5 trading days with no consistency rule. So 7 trading days total minimum. In my opinion, that is solid. That gets a 8 from me. Trustworthiness. Everyone loves my funded futures. I've never heard anyone say anything bad about them, especially if you are a beginner or if you're just still trying to figure out, how to get payouts or just trying to focus on getting that first payout, no matter how big or small it is. I think they are fantastic and I recommend them every single time. If someone new to me asks me what firm to go with, trustworthiness gets a 10. Earnings potential wise, like I said earlier, they are great for beginners, which means that for the earnings potential for the core account specifically is not going to be insanely good, obviously, because it's more catered towards beginner traders who are still trying to figure things out and learn and, just start stacking up small payouts here and there, right? And with a payout capped out at $1,000, that is not going to be as good as the other options on this list. So it's going to be getting a 7. Like I said, MFF out of all the firms on here is the best for beginners. So if you're a beginner, you do not need to be focusing on, getting a $5,000 payout or a $6,000 or $10,000 payout. That should not what be your focus is on. Your focus should be on stacking up small wins, stacking up small payouts, and over time you will snowball and grow. But MFF is the perfect one if you were just starting out and just trying to get your foot in the door. Rules wise, end of day drawdown, no daily loss limit, no consistency rule on the funded. Can't really beat that on this list, especially and honestly compared to any other firm. So that gets a 10 for me. Very simple, very straightforward, which gives us a P.E.T.E.R score of 9 out of 10. Next up is my personal favorite and the one that I use the most currently, but I will be explaining why in a second. So Take Profit Trader, P.E.T.E.R score, here we go. Pricing wise, TPT is the highest on the list at $102 for a 50K eval. Normally they are $300 because they are typically $170 without the discount plus a $130 activation fee, so $300 total. However, with the promo for the 40% off plus no activation fee, it is $102 all in. Compared to the other options on this list, yes, it is the highest. However, in my opinion personally, and again, this is just my experience, my own opinion, $102 in order to get what is basically an ATM machine in your pocket is insane to me. I love that value proposition and I think it is very strong, even though the other options are cheaper. Like for example, if you are on the fence between Tradeify or Alpha or Take Profit Trader and you know what you're doing and you are able to pass evals and get payouts, in my opinion, the value proposition that TPT offers is unbeatable. Like I said, if you're on the fence between like a Tradeify or an Alpha or a TPT and your main concern is price and the difference of, like $10 or $13, I would just fork up that extra $10 or whatever it is and just get a TPT account. Especially if you're on the fence between like Tradeify and TPT, it's a no-brainer in my opinion. But we'll get into that like overview at the end once we get these P.E.T.E.R scores out of the way. For the efficiency score, this is going to be the same exact argument as I had for Alpha Futures. So instead of 1 day for the eval, it is 5 days for the eval. However, you only need 1 day on the funded phase to get a payout. That gives you 6 total trading days to get a payout from start to finish, where you buy the account until the payout hits your account. So from start to finish, that is 6 total trading days where you start by buying the account until you get that payout. I don't know any firm that you can get a payout in under 6 days, and especially so on this list, the minimum that we have is Alpha and TPT at 6 days. So efficiency gets a 9. Trustworthiness, I personally have never had a bad experience with TPT. I personally wish that they had a Discord or they had slightly faster support. But like I said, I'm primarily just speaking from my own experience and what I've heard from people around me. I've never heard of anyone getting screwed over a rule that they did not know about or it was hidden. They are very upfront with their rules. In my opinion, they make it very clear for everyone on what you can and cannot do, which I can appreciate. Like I said, I wish the support was a little bit better or there was a Discord group that they ran where they had a support team, but hopefully we get that in the future, but it is what it is for now. I've never heard of anything wonky going on there. So trustworthiness gets a 10. And also keep in mind, like I will not be representing or using a prop firm that I did not believe was trustworthiness. So that's why, like you can probably guess Tradeify's trustworthiness is probably going to be at a 10 as well on the next slide. But in my opinion, all these firms, like if they had done me dirty, if I had seen a repeated pattern of something being weird or shady, then they would not be on this list. But moving on for earnings potential. The earnings potential for these accounts, like I said a second ago, are by far the best. Like $102 for a 50K account, which you can get daily payouts from. There is no payout cap. The payouts hit on the same day, at least in my experience, and those that I've seen also get payouts on the same day. It's not even close in my opinion for this category. In my opinion, TPT wipes the floor with every other firm in existence, as well as all the ones on this list. When it comes to earning potential and how much money you can get out of these accounts if you know what you're doing. Daily payouts, no maximum payout, no minimum payout, no consistency rule on the funded. In my opinion, that is just a money printer. Like I said, if you know what you're doing, then it's phenomenal and you really can't beat it. There are very good reasons for why I only use Take Profit Trader accounts right now. Even though I have all my other accounts from all the other firms on this list, it's just hard to use other firms when I know that, say for example, if I make $2,000 today, I can get that money in my bank account tomorrow. So knowing all of that, hopefully you can agree with me. Earnings potential for TBT gets a solid 10. Last but not least, for the rules, end of day drawdown for the eval. However, the intraday trailing once you get onto the funded initially is definitely not ideal. I can understand and agree that end of day drawdown is much better. However, that intraday drawdown goes away once you hit that $2,000 buffer amount. Besides that, you were allowed to trade all news for the evals. You were allowed to trade most news for the fundeds. And on top of that, you can have larger position sizes than most other prop firms right off the rip. And there's no scaling plan. So for all those reasons combined, I believe that a 7 is fair for the rules section. A 50, which gives us an 8.8 out of 10 on the P.E.T.E.R score. Last but not least, for Tradeify, pricing wise, they are the second most expensive one on this list. In my opinion, I personally love Tradeify. I've never had a bad experience with them. However, in context of what this list is, as well as the other options on this list, I think that there are better options and your money would be better spent from a risk to reward standpoint on other firms. So pricing wise, I'm going to be giving them a 7. If their price point were like in the 80s or like high 70s, like what my funded futures is, then it would definitely be higher. But for $97, in my opinion, you might as well just spend an extra 5 and get a take profit, or save a few bucks and go with an alpha account. In my opinion, that would be the smarter choice. Efficiency, so 1 day to pass the eval and then 7 to get a payout on the funded account. So that is 8 days total. That is the highest number of days on this list, so that is going to be getting a 7. Pretty straightforward there. Trustworthiness, they have never denied a payout, and they are like a actual firm that corrects and admits to mistakes when they happen, and they have a good Discord with a live chat support team as well. So trustworthiness and like support wise, they get a 10 easy. I'm a big fan of when prop firms have their own Discord, so then you can generally, that means that you get support much quicker than a like live chat support bot on their website or whatnot. But 10 out of 10 for trustworthiness. Earnings potential, like I said, in my opinion, TBT is better for the money, or just get 3 alpha accounts. However, I am a big fan that you can have 5 copy traded growth accounts on Tradeify, and you can have payouts scale up as you get more and more. So $1,500 for the first one, however, $1,750 all the way up to $3,000 for your payout number 6. And then after that is uncapped until $25,000 per payout per account. That's pretty cool. I have to give them credit where it's due, so that gives an 8. And then last but not least, rules. It is all end of day drawdown, 1 day pass. That is cool. You can trade any news that you want, so if you're a fan of that, then you're going to like this. So all those things combined, I'm going to give them an 8 out of 10. The only thing I don't like about them in terms of the rules is the daily loss limit. That's why they got it an 8 and not a 9 or a 10. But all in, Tradeify, I'm going to be giving a 40 out of 50, which equals to an 8 out of 10 on the P.E.T.E.R score. Now for the final scores, my funded futures and alpha are tied for the first place spot at 9 out of 10. TBT gets an 8.8 and Tradeify is at the bottom with an 8 out of 10. In my opinion, MFF is by far the best for beginners, or if you are on a tighter budget, they are by far the cheapest and you still get a great value for your money. Alpha Futures has a decently higher payout cap, so in my opinion, they are the best value for your money in that sense. And considering that they're only like 10 or 13 bucks more expensive than the MFF accounts, I think that's a great option for you. Alpha Futures also has the Project X option. So if you're a fan of Top Step X or Project X as the platform, MFF does not have that, while Alpha does. For Take Profit Trader, in my opinion, these are the best if you are intermediate or advanced, especially if you've already passed evals and gotten payouts. In my opinion, especially if you know what you're doing, your money is much better spent from a risk to reward standpoint, like spending an extra, 15, 20 bucks on a Take Profit Trader account instead of MFF or Alpha, if you know what you're doing and you know that you were able to get payouts consistently. And last but not least, Tradeify, once again, you can't go wrong with them in my opinion, but there are other options on this list. Tradeify is kind of in that weird middle ground where it doesn't really stand out or like do something exceptionally better than other options. Like I said, I still have all my accounts. I have nothing bad to say about them and I've had no bad experiences with them. However, for the sake of this video and comparing apples to apples, there are better options in my opinion, and you should just get an alpha or a take profit account. But that pretty much wraps up today's video. I hope that helped answer some questions for you that you might have had on the best prop firms out there that have no activation fees, that are the most cost effective, while at the same time you get the most value out of them and are able to actually get payouts in a timely fashion. And like I said previously, never pay full price for an eval. And as always, just type in 2 letters, PK at the checkout. That way you know that you're getting the best possible deal possible and you are saving the most amount of money possible. Use that money you saved on your evals, take your girl out for some ice cream, get yourself a McChicken, do literally anything except giving these firms more money than they deserve. And also PK is literally the lowest number of letters that you need to type in to get a discount. So just use that And like I said, I'm doing giveaways every single day in the Discord and on Twitter, where I'm giving away free eval accounts to random people that sign up for the giveaway. So if you're interested in that, feel free to check out the links in the description below. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you found it useful, and I will catch you on the next one. Take care.